Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prairie AAA show. I am your host, Jared Down. My co-host to the left of me, JD Houghton. We are Double J Sports. We've been covering AAA for a little over a year now. We have a WHL podcast for those that are new to watching us. This episode is going to be kind of focusing on the Circle K Classic. I'm out of the Swift Current, Saskatchewan area, and JD's out of Moose Jaw, who also is a play-by-play guy for the Moose Jaw Winmar Warriors of the U18 AAA League here in Saskatchewan. But JD, let's start this thing off. How's it going?
It's good, man. It's it's Christmas time. Obviously, everyone's getting fired up about the World Juniors, but kind of from our interests, the Circle K Classic is the World Juniors of AAA hockey. You have the best teams from North America at the U18 or 18U level. In the States, they come to Calgary, Alberta, formerly known as the Max Tournament. And you know what? It's a tough tournament. You're playing every single day, and it's exciting for these kids. There's lots of scouts, from WHL clubs to NHL clubs to, and it's just a great time of year. And you know what? It's really good hockey for those that are tuning in, man. Like it's some really good hockey. You have some players playing in this tournament this year specifically that are going to be big producers in the Western Hockey League and also in the USHL, along with potential NHL draft picks playing here. Starting on December 27th. So it's an exciting time of year, and we're excited to break this down. This is kind of, I would say, Jared, the first year that we've kind of gone in depth with this tournament, looking at every single team and every pool specifically to kind of just talk about what we know. This isn't where, we haven't seen a lot of these teams play. We're not going to go through game matchups or anything like that and say, oh, who's going to win? We're just going to go through what we've discovered and just kind of talk about that. Because a lot of these teams, very different, come from very different leagues, play different styles of hockey. And this tournament, like the World Juniors, anything can happen. It's,
exactly.
It's exciting.
A lot of it may sound like we're just kind of reading off a piece of paper when we're kind of bringing up some of these stats, but at the same time, it's hard to compile everything together and watch all these teams, right? We don't have enough time in this world to go back and watch some of these American teams, watch some of the prep school leagues, because we're based out of Saskatchewan. So our bread and butter is going to be kind of covering these Saskatchewan teams. We've dipped our toes into Manitoba and Alberta as of late. No Manitoba teams from the U18 AAA League in this tournament. We'll have obviously quite a few from the Alberta League that we've really started following more so in playoffs last year and kind of transitioned into this year. So, we're going to do our best. We had a few people on Twitter reach out about some of the American teams. So we're kind of just going to go off that a little bit and the stats that we have found. But, I could say we could kind of pick which pool we want to start with, but we might as well just start with pool one and kind of go by a pool-to-pool basis and see where the show takes us, eh?
Yeah. And for those that are watching, there's 8 pools in this tournament. And each team gets, I want to say, a guaranteed 4 games. So they play 3 games within their pool, and then they kind of get put into A, B, and C and D pools, kind of going into the quarterfinals and semifinals after that. So let's start with pool 1, which consists of the Calgary North Stars, Team Hungary, which is returning. I want to say I watched last year. They came last year. So let's say they're returning in back-to-back years. The Fraser Valley Thunderbirds out of the BC Elite Hockey League, and then Edge School, which we might as well just start there, Jared. I know you, I imagine, want to talk about a specific player on Edge School that I know his name is very familiar to those watching and, probably around or across Western Canada. So, Jared, I'll let you take it away.
Drink a bud, and that guy is Landon DuPont. He's a 14-year-old D-man. Could be playing U15 AAA, but due to his talent, has gotten the ability to play up in the CSSHL with the U18 squad. He's he's got 28 points in 12 games, JD.
Yes.
Or is that 12 and 16? Sorry. Yeah, 28. He's over a point per game, almost 2 points per game. And he's a smooth skating D-man. He right-handed shots. He's going to be highly valuable in the upcoming WHL draft. Potentially going to get granted exceptional status. I've been hearing rumors about that in various circles. Don't know what that's going to look like. Who knows? Maybe he will attempt to go the college route and graduate early and do the 17-year-old season in college. But right now, kind of labeled as exceptional status potential in the WHL. He's not a Cale Makar. He's not one of those guys that, when he really stands out, he's dazzling with the finesse skating moves. He can do that. He makes the smart plays. He doesn't bobble pucks. He's quick to make that pass. And, I had to really go back and watch and see what the hype was all about him. And I've seen a couple games now, and he's always involved in a play, and he can lay kids out. He's not willing to throw the body around. I think he's almost 6 feet at the age of 14. So once he starts putting on a little more weight, I'm sure he'll grow a little bit. He's going to be of high value, and I'm looking to see how he stands out in this tournament as, styles clash. You talked about every league has a different style. I kind of see this tournament kind of comparable to a college football tournament where, every team has a different scheme. They match up differently. So you might get this Edge School, who's one of the top teams, talked about in this tournament. And I'm interested to see how his style matches up with some of these other teams in this pool. But, they also got a guy like Owen Cooper who has been very good for them this season. So I'm looking forward to see how this team does in this pool. And I would say they're early favorites in this pool potentially. But then again, like I said, it's different leagues matching up here.
Yeah, and you look at their top 5 scorers, all of them. Obviously, aside from Landon DuPont, because he's draft eligible next year. And I want to say for the second year in a row, for the second time in recent years, we've had a 14-year-old playing at U18 prep level. The last guy I know most recently, you all know him, plays for the Medicine Hat Tigers. His name's Gavin McKenna. He got granted exceptional status to play with Saha, I believe. And he excelled in this tournament last year. So we'll see what he looks like, what Landon DuPont can do in this tournament playing, against, he's already in a league playing against kids way older than him.
Yeah.
Depending on how they match up and who they play, they might be playing some American teams that are 18U. So they might be going up against some 18-year-old kids. But one guy I did want to bring up, Riley Budd, their goaltender. He's 7-2, 1.89 goals against average, and a .934 save percentage. He is a second-round draft pick this year. This most recent WHL prospects draft, the Saskatoon Blades. And, I know Blades fans are going to be watching this goalie very closely, as he might be the future netminder for the Blades. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does at this tournament. Again, he's a 15-year-old playing for a U18 prep team. So a 15 or 16-year-old, I'd have to double check that. But he's quite young playing an older league. No, I'm looking forward to watching Edge play. But I'm also looking forward to watching the Fraser Valley Thunderbirds. Last year they won the D pool. They beat St. Louis 4-3 in that game. And they, the Alberta Elite Hockey League, they have different levels of AAA. So this is their U18 AAA team. They're 14-4. sit third in the league standings, and they have a goal differential of plus 57. One of their guys that I'm looking forward to, watching as much as I can is Marco Oliviero. He's undrafted. Obviously, he's from that Fraser Valley area, but I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And their two goalies have identical records at 7-2. Jake Torget and Nathan Niedermeiser, both 7-2. So they, in the league that they're playing in, and BC's a tough league because a lot of those kids that are eligible to play go to the CSSHL. So, some of them are drafted. A lot of them, from my research, aren't drafted. But this is a tournament where you can put your name on the map if you have a good 3-4 games. You could be getting, scouted by WHL team and invited to a training camp, because that's how you get your foot in the door. So I think Fraser Valley and Edge, that's going to be a good game here to watch. And then the obviously Team Hungary, I couldn't really find much about them beside their roster. Where are some of these kids from? Most of them are from Budapest. I don't know. I would assume that this is a traveling team that travels. They're one team and they go around to different tournaments or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure. I know that they had some success last year. They had some close games, but that's all I can really say. And we can't dive into that very much. But yeah,
well, they were a U20 team last year, weren't they?
I don't, Jared,
I can't remember.
I don't know what their, I would have to look and see if their rosters have ages on them, but I think that they're an older team. And then obviously for them, it's an experience for these kids to come across to Canada and play against, see, probably some huge differences in the style that they play compared to some of the teams that they're going to be facing in essentially three different leagues. You got the Alberta Elite Hockey League with the Calgary North Stars. You got the CSSHL with Edge, and then you got Fraser Valley, a BC Elite Hockey League team. So there's probably going to be a lot of, reconfiguring to play to those certain styles compared to what they play. Maybe they play physical, maybe they're more skilled. I don't know. I'll have to watch a game or two to kind of get my bearings straight on them. But yeah, that's kind of, I'm looking forward. And this is a good pool. Like Calgary North Stars, they turned some heads last year as well. I think they were playing in their own rink for most of that tournament where the Calgary Canucks play. I think it's the Max Bell. I think that's the rink.
Do they play in that one too? I know the Flames. Oh no, Max Bell. Sorry, yes, the Northwest Flames playing the Dinos rink there. I got the rings mixed up there.
And we'll get to the Northwest Flames. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's going to be a good conversation as well, Jared. But anybody, let's talk a little bit about the Calgary North Stars before we move on. Is there anything popping out to you that might be a difference for them trying to get out of this pool, maybe in first or second spot?
Well, I think right now, obviously, a lot of our stats that we kind of compiled would have been cut off last night. So I think they might have had a game last night. Now the leagues are still in action. So by the time the tournament comes around, if you're just watching this a day before the tournament, these stats might be slightly skewed. But, right now they're kind of struggling coming into the tournament. They're 3-6-0-1 their last 10. So not the way you probably want to enter the Max tournament. Or sorry, the Circle K. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but, probably not the way you want to enter this tournament, on a bit of a downslope. And, there's a few of these AHL teams these Alberta teams, out of the Alberta Elite Hockey League that are on a bit of a slide heading into this tournament. When the selection committee came out, a lot of these teams were near the top of their divisions and have since kind of fallen to about 500 or below 500 in the last 10. So not ideal for them. They'll have Christmas to kind of reset, and then not long after that, they'll be back in action to take on these teams. So, their PK has been all right this season at 84.3%. Special teams in this tournament are going to be huge. and we'll talk about a lot about that. And it's hard to say right now. Obviously, I think they should be able to squeak out a win, maybe two. But they get edge in their second game, which I kind of have pegged as the favorites out of the gate in this pool. So at least you're not playing them right out of the gate. You got Hungary, kind of a wild card, which might be probably a good thing for a team looking to refine their game, right? You can't get any head games, right? It's a lot of unknown. You just got to take them like they're going to be really tough and get your wheels straight. But not a lot else to add there.
The one thing I do want to add is, as I mentioned before, there's, I think in Alberta there's 3 divisions. There's U16 AAA, U17, and then U18 AAA. So these U18 AAA teams, they have an odd 15 or 16-year-old, but a lot of them are 17-year-olds. So the North Stars do have 17 of their 20 skaters are 17-year-olds, and being I would say an older type of tournament in terms of age per, on rosters. That might be a benefit a little bit. Just probably some of these guys. I didn't look too deep to see who was on last year's team, but I imagine there's probably a few guys on this team that did play in last year's tournament, so they know what it takes to win this tournament, and that's helpful. It's no different than the playoffs. But one thing else I did want to add is that for those that are watching that might not know, all the Calgary and area teams get into this tournament automatically. So, your Calgary North Stars, the Royals, the Buffaloes, the Northwest Flames, Okotoks, Airdrie, they're all automatic in. And then they pull a couple more, I want to say from the North Division to represent Alberta in this tournament. So I think there's 11 Alberta teams altogether, 9 from the States, 7 from BC, including CSSHL schools. And then I think 3 from Saskatchewan, and 3 from Saskatchewan, 3 from BC, and then 1 from Europe. So that's just kind of quick math that I did. But Jared, did you want to move on? Do you have anything else to add to Pool 1?
No, we'll be here all day for taking 25 minutes per pool. So let's jump into Pool 2. If anyone were looking at some of the comment sections, I know we had a little bit of conversation on which pool we are most intrigued by. I know, JD, you hadn't had the opportunity to add to that, but I know I was saying this is probably the most intriguing pool of the 8 pools. You have the Calgary Northwest Flames. Shattuck St. Mary makes their return to the tournament. Everyone has heard that name in the hockey landscape, let alone the AAA landscape. The Prince Albert Mintos and the OHA Penticton, aka the Okanagan Hockey Academy. Starting off, the Calgary Northwest Flames come in as hot as any team in this tournament will be. They've lost 1 game. I should check to see if they played last night, but they've lost 1 game since the start of November. They're over 10 straight wins now after starting the year. I think they started the year like 2-7-1 or something. I could be off on that.
And they might have been 1-8 too. Like I know we've chatted about this before, Jared. We had the head coach on, and it wasn't the start that I think the Flames wanted to have, but they've really turned things around, coming and hot at the right time, coming in the Circle K Classic.
Yeah, no, like we had their head coach on probably our 3rd or 4th episode of the season, and he's like, we have enough returning guys from last year's championship team. They won the Alberta Elite Hockey League last year. Went on to the national championship in Quebec, and it's like we just got to figure out how to get the wheels to turn. And they've been red hot. Brett O'Halloran has been red hot in net, and they found their groove, which they're going to need to find their groove heading into this pool, as they have Shattuck St. Mary and OHA Penticton, probably 2 of the top teams on paper heading into this tournament. And, you also have the Prince Albert Mintos, who are near the top of the Saskatchewan League. The Mintos are a team that are almost built for this tournament. They might not have all the stars that, some of these other teams have. They have Owen Nelson, who was at one point, or was leading the Saskatchewan League in scoring for most of the season until Dane Bucher just absolutely took off with that. But they've had a couple weekends already this season where they played 3 games in a row, and I think there's
six. They're 5-1.
5-1 in those games. So, a team that's well used to playing 3 games in a row, they could turn some heads. They have Brady Holvolt in net, who a bigger goalie can absolutely steal a game if needed. And then now, obviously, OHA Penticton. But let's kind of transition to Shattuck St. Mary's. What have you found on them this season?
Well, they're 25-2. They're a team that can score. They're and for those, they play out of Minnesota. They play in I think 4 different leagues. They play, nationally against a different elite U18 or 18U AAA. And for those, 18U is the age division, so it's not U18 in the States. It is 18U, so you can have 18-year-olds play for the full season. And they're ranked number 1 in Tier 1 hockey. In the United States, they're ranked number 1 in their prep independent league that they play in. They're ranked number 1 nationally across all 18U teams. They're a really, really good team. And you know what? Everybody knows who Shattuck St. Mary's is. Their guys go on to play college hockey in the United States at the Division I schools, if it's Boston College or Boston or the University of North Dakota, or if it's Denver, or
they currently have 10 commits to college right now.
Oh, you looked more okay, because out of their top 5 leading scorers, 3 of them are committed to D1 universities. One of them is a Calgary Hitmen draft pick out of the U.S. Prospects draft. And then another one has committed to the USHL. And their leading scorers, William Zellers, 26 goals, 26 assists for 52 points this year. And they've played, 27 games. So, he is probably, a 2.5 point per game producer, roughly. And he's committed to the University of North Dakota. So at the end of the day, their goalies, both of them 12-1, both goals against average under 1. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And actually, it was funny. I was talking to some of our players last night, and one of their 2 losses came by way of the Prairie Hockey Academy, which is just down the road from Moose Jaw here. They were able to take down Shattuck St. Mary's earlier this year. I want to say in a showcase, or it might have been a tournament somewhere. I'm not sure where. But the Prairie Hockey Academy, I would assume their U18 prep team was able to take them down, or maybe U17. I'm not sure, but they have a goal differential of plus 121. And as we mentioned before, folks, this is just information that we've been able to discover. We haven't watched them or anything like that. We're just going off stats and looking at their leading scorers and their goaltenders and whatnot. But I think that Shattuck St. Mary's, we'll get to OHA Penticton, but I think that's going to be the game to watch that's going to decide this pool, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's tough. And you know what? I got the 10 college commits from, I don't know if he's watching right now, but it was Chuck Wyckoff. I apologize if I said that name. He commented on our post last night that we will be doing a Circle K Classic preview, but he mentioned 7 or so players from the Shattuck St. Mary's team are returning from last year's national championship squad. So this team knows what it takes to win. Obviously, this team always wins, but winning a national championship is huge. They know how to play those meaningful games, and I'm really intrigued to see how they match up in this pool, because you got a lot of good teams in this pool, and I feel bad for these teams in this pool, because I would say any one of these 4 could very well be a contender in any other pool, but they got drawn a tough luck, and it's gonna be a fun pool to watch, and I don't know how it's gonna play out, but it'll be interesting to see how the Styles do. But this team has a lot of offensive firepower, and you don't want to fall behind early against this team, because it's going to be hard to dig yourself out of a hole against them.
Yeah, and you know what? They've won this tournament before. I think they've won this tournament back to back. a number of years ago. I'm not sure when, but they know what it takes to win this tournament, because essentially you're playing a game every day until January 1st. If you make it all the way to the finals, you're playing 6 games in 6 days, essentially. Maybe with one day off in the middle of that for New Year's Eve. I'm not sure how it works or remember what the schedule was like last year, but like that's a lot of hockey to play for some of these kids that might not do that on a regular basis. This team, when they go to showcases, obviously they play 3 and maybe 3 or 4 games in a weekend at some of these showcases, or 4 and 4, or whatever it is. Prince Albert, you mentioned, they've done 3 and 3s twice this year, and they know what it, and like Jared, it does. It's tough to see this pool, because I think that this is going to be the most exciting pool to watch. You'll probably see a lot of people at these rinks watching these games. I know I'll be tuned in when any of these teams play each other in this pool. I've never watched Shattuck St. Mary's, so I'm looking forward to watching them play and watching OHA Penticton as well. Prince Albert, we know that they play a physical game. They're hardworking, and that's just the mantra or the motto of the Prince Albert Mintos. Tim Leonard done a great job, creating a program that's, your work ethic is more important than how many points you put on the scoreboard. And I think that will have a lot, will carry over into this tournament, because you know what, they work and work and work, and they got strong goaltending, Brady Hovolt, Prince George Cougars draft pick. And you know what, Joshua Henry is a very solid backup too, another tall goaltender. So you can kind of see where we're going with this here. Jaden Krause, a previous Minto playing for the Victoria Royals, another tall goaltender. So they like their tall goaltenders. Something in the water there in northern Saskatchewan, I guess. But at the end of the day, like this, and then you look at the Northwest Flames, they're hot right now, and they're going in with a lot of confidence too. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out. It's going to be a dogfight, Jared. It's going to be a dogfight. I think a team has to go 3-0 to win this. There's a one loss. I don't know if that'll get them out of this pool, but this is probably the most exciting pool at this tournament this year. And maybe that was by design. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a very good chance that I'm not 100% sure how the tiebreakers work, but this could be one of those pools where you have a team that drops a loss. Every team drops a loss in this pool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We haven't touched on OHA Penticton too much, so let's get into that. But
yes,
they got the Ruckus twins, both drafted by Medicine Hat, 9th overall and 21st overall in the recent WHL draft, who to a lot of people were surprised, fell that far. The Tigers traded up into in the round to get the other brother, and they were excellent in the WHL Cup. They can play any style you need them to. Matthijs Preston, first rounder for the Spokane Chiefs, another strong player for OHA, and their penalty kill has been one of the best in the CSSHL, 88.5%, which in this pool could be a big factor, especially against a team like Shattuck's who can score. And I imagine this tournament's gonna be called tight. Given all the different styles, you're going to have to call it a strict way, I would imagine. So this team is got the firepower up front and could play that defensive structure to really get them through. And Ryan Tamlin's been strong in net for them with a 256 goals against average and a 917 save percentage, 2 shutouts in the year, and also a Spokane Chiefs draft pick. So I wouldn't be shocked if one of these teams or all these teams drop at least one game. But, we won't know until we see it.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting, Jared. It's going to be good, man. I'm looking forward to those watching this pool. I think day one, if I remember correctly by the schedule, I think OHA and Shattuck St. Mary go head-to-head game 1 of this tournament. Let me just double-check here, though, because – that will be a dandy. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense because Calgary's got maybe. I don't have it here. I was thinking of the pool before. Sorry.
Let me just double check here while we got a second. But on to your point, like their top three scorers are all first round draft picks in the Western Hockey League this summer. So it's going to be and you think about it, you got 15-year-olds leading your squad,
which could be a huge factor in this tournament too, right? Sometimes when you get stylistic differences and age differences, sometimes the age being a little older just means that much more. You're a little more mature, often a little bigger, a little heavier, and sometimes that can outweigh skill in these short round robin style tournaments. So, it's hard to say how that's going to match up.
Yeah, and just looking at the schedule now, Jared, Shattuck St. Mary's, OHA Penticton will match up in their first game of the tournament, 3:30 Mountain Time in Calgary. So I know there's probably going to be a lot of eyes on that game as you got some firepower going on against firepower and great goaltending as well. So that is going to be good, but we've only gotten through 2 pools in half an hour. So we should probably skedaddle and get through the other 6 we got to go through there, Jerry.
Yeah, just a few.
Yeah, just a few. Okay, so we're going to move on to pool number 3, which consists of the Edmonton Junior Oilers Orange, the Phoenix Junior Coyotes, the Burlington Eagles out of Ontario, and then the Rink Hockey Academy in Kelowna. And this one is going to be an interesting pool too. Obviously, Phoenix and Edmonton Junior Oilers, Burlington Eagles were all in the tournament last year. I'm not sure about the Rink Hockey Academy, so don't quote me that on if they were here or not last year, because I actually I can't remember. But
the website didn't do us any justice either.
No.
I'm not trying to call out the Circle K or anything, but I think they revamped their website last year, I believe, with the whole transition of the naming rights. And for some reason, it didn't transition into this year. So we couldn't, once they released the pools, we couldn't actually go back and take a look at a lot of the data and information on last year's tournament. So we're trying to piece together all these leagues. So apologies on that.
Yeah, so we'll start with the Edmonton Junior Oilers Orange. They're 10-6-2-2 in the Alberta. They come from the Alberta Elite Hockey League, U18 AAA. They sit 4th in the North Division, 3-4-2-1 in their last 10 games. I actually figured this out, that in Alberta they actually have ties.
You don't go to a shootout in that one.
Yeah, it's ties. So they have a goal differential of +6. Their power play is about 17%, PK 81.4, which is about middle of the pack across that league. The leading scorer of that team, Jake Sokolsky, I'm going to say, he has 22 points. Only 2 of their top 5 scorers are drafted. Roxton Roar Chow, which is a beautiful killer name. By the way, he's a 20, got drafted this year to the Vancouver Giants, an 8th round pick. And then the Medicine Hat Tigers picked up Avery Watson, who is 4th or 5th in the team scoring with 16 points. He was an 8th round pick this summer by the Medicine Hat Tigers. So Medicine Hat definitely going to be a team to look out for in the coming years. And their goaltender, Avon Maxey, 5.8-0-1, 3.41 goals against average, and an 890 save percentage. He is undrafted, and that was the only goalie I could find on their website. So my apologies there. And then Phoenix, another team that I couldn't really find a whole lot about, especially with stats for their players. But they, like Shattuck St. Mary's, they play in like that elite program across the United States. They're a part of that. And so they're ranked 24th in the country and 1st in Arizona. So they're the best team in Arizona. 7-3 in their last 10, and they have a goal differential of 24. And like I said, with their players, their website didn't have any stats on it, but Elite Prospects only had all these their players only playing 6 games. So Obviously, they played 20, and their goal differential is they've scored 66 goals. So I don't think that's accurate. A lot of them are drafted into the NCDC,
which is from what I found when I clicked on those teams, a lot of the UPHL. I apologize if that's incorrect, but I will say the UPHL, there is a lot of awesome team names in that league. So kudos to getting creative in that one.
Yes. Idaho Falls Spud Kings. That's my favorite so far.
Yeah, I definitely need to get me an Idaho Falls Spud Kings t-shirt. I was looking at their website. I'm like so tempted to pull the trigger. But yeah awesome name.
Jared, is there anything in the first two teams that kind of sticks out to you in terms of like Phoenix was here last year, same with Edmonton, so they kind of know what it takes to win this tournament. But any players, any stats, anything that's really kind of catching your eye?
First off, the Edmonton Junior Oilers Orange. I'm not exactly sure how the invites work with teams outside of the Calgary area in invites, because you look at them in the standings right now, they've kind of fallen off in the last 10, kind of like I alluded to earlier in the episode when talking about the Calgary Northwest Stars. But they 3-4-2-1, like you said, in the last 10, which means they would have started off the year 7-2-0-1 when the invites went out. Roughly, they're near the top of the league. They were in the league finals last year, I believe. Yes. It was the Orange that dropped that to the Calgary Northwest Flames. So I imagine they have a few returning guys who know how to win and that were in this tournament. So hopefully they can refine their form. Standings might be a little deceiving there with them, given their last little bit. But, obviously some struggles as of late. But I'm sure they'll find their groove in this one. The Phoenix Junior Coyotes in net, Max Millstone, 149 goals against average, 922 save percentage. He looks like he's been a rock for them back there. So I'm interested to see how he'll perform in this tournament. And, goaltending is so huge in this tournament, having two goalies too. So
yes,
you can't ride a guy all the way through or else you're going to burn him right out playing every day. But, I'm interested to see, the depth there. Looks like Benjamin Vadas is a U.S. high priority draft pick by the Medicine Hat Tigers. So obviously some talent on both sides, or in both nets. For both goalies in that team. But that's what all I have to add there. You look at the U.S. rankings, like you said, 24th in Tier 1. It's for some people, 24th may sound, that's not that high, right? But you got to think U.S. has a lot higher population than us in Canada. So, even 24th in Canada is fairly good. When you look at U.S., it's probably even better. So it's still going to be a strong team. Don't take them lightly. Obviously, the record shows 7-3 in their last 10 as well. I'm interested to see how they match up against some of these teams north of the border, especially the stylistic. We get a team from out east, a team from Alberta, and then a team from BC. So interested to see how those match up, but I'll let you take it away here as we head to Ontario.
Yes, Burlington, Ontario. They, if I remember correctly from last year, they were flying in. This might have been a different team, but I think it's Burlington where they got caught. There's a massive snowstorm, and they barely got to Calgary in time to play their first game. And if I remember correctly, they did pretty well last year. So they're coming back. They're the top ranked team in their league, which is the Ontario. I don't know what the acronym is, but it's OMHA AAA Hockey League out there in Ontario. And they have the best record. They're first in their division, which is the West Division. And then they are also overall the number one team. So they're 14-3, 9-1 in their last 10, 8-game winning streak they got. So they're hot at the right time. Their goal differential is 81. They've only given up 29 goals this season. So goaltending has been very good for them. That and their defensive structure as well to give up that few of goals, especially through 17 games. And This might be league play. I'm not sure because, if they go to any tournaments down south in the United States or anything like that where their record doesn't show, any tournaments that they've gone to. So I apologize if maybe they have a better record than or maybe a little worse record than what I was able to uncover. But, a lot of their guys are drafted into the 3 of their top 5 scorers are drafted in the Ontario Hockey League. Nash Gillies, their leading scorer with 24 points. North Bay Battalion draft pick last year in 2022. Owen Mealy, 23 points, sits third in scoring, and he's drafted by the Owen Sound Attack. And then Sam Johnston is a Guelph Storm draft pick this year. So, and you look at Nate Gillies, their goaltender, a .94 goals against average, played 7 games this year. But this, I will give you a little bit of a caveat with that, is that I believe, if I'm remembering, sorry, I'm thinking of a different team. I did so much research yesterday that it's all kind of blending together. But he has 1 shutout in 7 games, and he's a first-round draft pick of the Sarnia Sting this year in the U18 priority draft in the OHL. So, and then their backup just as capable, Ivan Castellan. 1.71 goals against average, 2 shutouts in 10 games, and he's a Mississauga Steelheads 15th round draft pick. So Burlington Eagles right now, as I'm going to say, I'm just putting it out there, folks. You can agree with me if you want. You disagree with me if you want, but I think the Burlington Eagles looks like they might be the favorite out of this pool. Just kind of looking like just on paper, any of these teams can surprise you. You might have an off game, and then a team can take advantage of that. But right now, I think that they are looking like they're the top team, in my opinion, on this team. But then you got Rink Hockey Academy as well. That they're very good.
Yeah. Before you jump into Rink there, I just want to make a little note on Burlington. A lot of times when you're pulling stats, it's easy to get caught up in the statistics. And obviously when analyzing goaltending, goals against average can sometimes not always be a tell-all story. Obviously, a 0.94 goals against average and a 1.71 for both goalies is fantastic, but unable to pull actually the save percentage statistics out there. So I really don't know. Yeah. Without going and finding every game log and shots and, outlining every game, it's hard to get a read on, if, this is influenced by this team's ability to defend the play. I'm not trying to take anything away from these 2 goaltenders, but, obviously GAA doesn't always mean everything. But, on paper, it looks like, having this tandem could put them as a potential favorite in this tournament. And obviously their team is pretty good at helping them out too. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually look once we get them here in Calgary.
Yeah, and they might have an 890 goals or a save percentage. You don't know. Like they might only face 12 shots a game and they let 1 goal in, or 2 goals in. Like you don't. Yeah, you're right. Playing a little devil's advocate, and I appreciate that. And yeah, the stats that we were able to find might not tell the whole story. So they're playing against 3 probably different types of teams. They might be facing more shots maybe in this tournament than some of the games that they've faced all year. So good point to bring up, Jared. I appreciate it. Did you want to go into Rink?
Yeah, we might as well go into Rink here. The 12-1-2 this year. What's that? Plus 36 goal differential, 7-1-2 in their last 10. Got the 4th best power play in the CSSHL, rocking at 26.7%. PK not so good, 15th out of 20 in the Western CSSHL. They have a 79.3% on the PK, but top scorers, I'm sure anyone watching will know this last name. Joe Aginla, who got his actually WHL, I believe, debut last night against the current Broncos, got 1 assist in that one. Jared. 1 assist in his debut against the current. But yeah, Joe's a great hockey player. Obviously, he's got a great bloodline, and Jerome as his dad, his brother Tej, playing in Kelowna, having a lights out year, has worked his way into the first round conversation of this year's NHL entry draft. But the Oil Kings got a good one there, and he's got 9 goals, 16 assists for 25 points on the year. He was a first rounder of the Edmonton Oil Kings. They got Kesslin Podwarney, 24 points, 9 goals, 15 assists and he's a Regina Pats draft pick. Brody Giuseppe. He's Gillespie. Sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
Got pizza on my mind, I guess. But 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points. He's a Spokane Chiefs U.S. draft prospect there. And then Jake Skogstad.
That's what I'm going to say is how you pronounce his last name.
Our favorite team name that we've uncovered
yes.
for the NCDC is the Idaho Falls Spud Kings draft pick there. And then Keaton Verhoff, Victoria Royals prospect there. JD, any of those other players that I haven't really touched on of the top 5 that jump out to you?
Well, I was Googling Brody Gillespie, and I'm like, I feel like I've heard this name before. Then obviously searching him, he was taken first overall in the U.S. priority draft last year, or this year, excuse me. Keaton Verhoff too. Another first rounder that Victoria was able to pick up. I think in the coming years they're going to have a good team with this kid and Cole Reshny that's there, Ben Reich, a veteran player in the league now, or an 18-year-old that was traded from Moose Jaw, and then you got Cash All Greased from here in Saskatchewan that he was a second round, a high second round pick, and they're building for a very successful year. They're having one already this year. It's just going to keep getting better from, they're just drafting really well. I think the Spokane Chiefs, you got to give them credit. They have to have a really good year here in the next couple of years because they've drafted pretty well in the last couple to 3 years too. Berkeley Catton, I think, is finally trying to find his stride in the Western Hockey League. And, and then my man, like, he got his first last night and just another accolade and another very, very good hockey player in that Aginla family. So Edmonton, again, that, has been putting some pieces together that should be successful in the coming years. But they're goaltenders too. Like, you look at Elijah Henson, he's 7-0-1, 2.33 goals against average and a .916 save percentage and 3 shutouts. The team's only lost 1 game in regulation. I think that matchup between them and Burlington is going to be a very good game as well. Because you have, I think, 2 teams that can score, but they're pretty good defensively. Like Rick Kelowna's only given up 42 goals this year, only scored 78, but I look at Burlington as well, that they've only given up 29 goals. So I think it's going to be, just looking on paper, a low scoring game and very good. So I'm looking forward to that game and just, out of all of this, being able to watch some of these teams that you really only get to watch maybe once or twice a year. So that's also good to kind of see how these teams match up, I think, is going to be good. And then, for these kids, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of scouts in those ranks, man, watching. And so you got to perform. And for a lot of these guys, their own teams are going to come watch them play to make sure that they're, them drafting them was the right decision. So there's a lot of pressure on these kids that are, like Landon DuPont's 14 years old. Some of these kids are 15, 16, 17-year-olds that are still trying to get to that next level. That this is a big, big spotlight for them.
Yeah, and I believe, like, what was I going to say before we jump on? I'm just going back to Elijah Henson. Is he signed? I want to say Edmonton has signed him. I don't know why that name jumps out to me, but he's probably trying to make a case, with an Oil Kings team that's in the rebuilding phase, right? They've also been struggling to find goaltending in this whole rebuild process. They brought a lot of guys in, so it could be a potential audition for him that, hey, I want to be the guy next year, if not even the end of the season for you guys, right? So lots of opportunity here. There's I would say a lot of the prospects that we've talked about so far on these teams that we've talked about have are in the later stages of their U18 AAA career, and often they're later round picks or guys that haven't been able to crack the squad yet. So they're also auditioning to get with their team, or maybe be moved from their current draftee team to a team that's looking to bring them in, right? So lots of auditioning happening, a lot of scouts going to be in the stands, like you said, and a lot of opportunity to perform. But Pool 4, we may as well jump into that one. Got the Calgary Buffaloes, Detroit Victory Honda, Swift Current Legionnaires, and the Yale Lions. JD, which one of those four do we want to start with?
Might as well start with the Calgary Buffaloes, because it looks like they're having a really good season once again. They were coming into last year's tournament that they had yet to lose in regulation. I think they came in maybe 15-0-1, 17-0-1 or something like that when they came into the tournament. So they were like the favorites out of Alberta to be a contender. And I don't know if they had the tournament that they were hoping for last year, but they're right back at it to their winning ways this year. 13-5, 0-2 record, second in the South Division, 6-3-1 in their last 10. Have a goal differential of 40. Their power play is very lethal at 24%. PK just as lethal, 85.6. So as we've alluded to many times, special teams is crucial in this tournament, because you take a bad penalty and you have a team that can bury you in a hockey game, especially late in it, and capitalize on a power play. That takes the wind right out of your sails, and it's hard. They got some guys that we've even chatted about. I think Caleb Matthews has been on our top or stars of the month for. I think he was our first forward star of the month for Alberta in October. And then Reese, I'm going to say Reese Jameson, Everett Silvertip, second round draft. He's playing in this tournament. Cooper Williams, the Saskatoon Blades draft pick this year in the second round. And then Towns Kozicki, I'm going to say. Prince George Cougars fourth rounder. So they got some talent on this team. Caleb Matthews, I think, is leading the league in points with 39, or he's up there in points for sure. But this is going to be a Calgary Buffaloes team that's going to be, a very competitive team in this tournament. But, they're going up against teams from, different parts of the country and even into the United States. So they're one of those teams that draws an American team in their pool. So that's always exciting, for a kid. You get to play against an American team. And I think the Calgary Buffaloes are the real deal. And, they have an overtime record of 2-0, so they're good in extra time. They've yet to go to a shootout this year. Or, sorry, there are no shootouts, excuse me. But they've gone 2-0 in overtime. So I think that they're I'm looking forward to watching them play.
Well, and they're always one of the teams to beat in the South Division in the Alberta League Hockey League. They're constantly up there. They're always going to be good. Last year they were the favorites to come out of the South. They had a 2-game-to-none lead in the second round, and the Northwest Flames battled back against them. So, they've been robbed a lot lately. I'm sure the returning players, they want to start it off strong and hope to carry on to the next season, into the second half of the season, into playoffs. But, this team definitely thrives in these single games, right? So I'm interested to see if they can keep her going forward. And they've been getting the goaltending for the most part this season between Kai Svensson and Colton Scott. So, anything can happen in this tournament. But, this team we've seen in the past have success. And I'm interested to see how that success can translate into this tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And then, we move on to Detroit Victory Honda, who is another elite team in that American Tier 1 league. And, they're ranked 7th overall in the country, first in Michigan. So they're the top ranked team in Michigan, and they're 9-1 in their last 10, and they have a goal differential of 83. So they can score. And you look at their, they have 3 guys with 40 or more points. And then they have a handful of guys over 30 points. So they have a lot of guys that can score. And their goaltending has been very good as well. And this is the team that I was for their goaltending is that when I looked at their team website, they had 3 goalies, but only 2 of them had numbers. The other guy had played 10 games. He didn't look like he had the best season. So maybe they brought in this Teddy Ecker, maybe as a replacement or a third goaltender. I don't know, but he is playing now, and he's won all 4 games and only let 5 goals within those 4 games. 1.43 goals against average and a .917 save percentage. And then obviously their guy, Nick Jeanette, I'm not sure, 15-5 with a 1.77 goals against average and a .913 save percentage with 3 shutouts this season. So their leading scorer is Joseph Meredith with 49 points. Toby Carlson has 49 points as well, tied for first there. USHL 9th round draft pick to the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders, another beauty name.
Might be a little Saskatchewan bias to the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, but
yeah. But I another team. It's hard to say because this pool is I think a harder one to be like, yeah, that's the team that's going to come out of this division or this pool. Because you got Yale, who is also having a very good season. You got the Swift Engineer second in Saskatchewan right now. And have one heck of a goaltender, in Bernie Weston. And, you got Detroit that looks like they can score on the, against the best of them. So this one's a toss up in my opinion. I think it is another one of those, a team has to go 3-0 to potentially get out of this division. Cause it's going to come down to, I want to say the first tiebreaker is I would assume goals for and against or are against one another.
I would imagine it goes to head to head and then goals for if it's more than 2. Yeah. But, before we get kind of too much into how it's going to play out, Swift Current, a team that's making a back-to-back appearance. Like I said, Bernie Weston has been solid back there for him. Probably going to be one of the smallest goalies in the tournament, but don't let that fool you. He's quick and has been an anchor back there for him. He was most valuable goaltender in the Saskatchewan AAA League last year, making a reappearance in the league in the second season at 16 years old. So, and Jason Eglund's been a nice story there in Swift Current too. He's leading the team in points, 29 points. That's a 16-year-old. Parker Rondeau, 27 points. Cade Stringer, 22 points. And Jacob Morris seeing a little more action as of late for Swift Current. So probably trying to get him in some more games for this tournament because they're going to have to go. He's going to have to at least make one appearance in the tournament out of the first 4. But Bernie Weston, that name might ring a bell for some of you in the tournament last year. I think he had a 50+ save win last year in the tournament, so he knows what it takes to win games in this tournament, and they're going to really need him to be strong if they're going to get out of this division.
Yeah, and the Swift Current Legionnaires are a team that find ways to win. They battle back and they get themselves into overtime where it's 3-on-3, and then depending on who they're playing, their skill can take over or their defensive structure can take over and really defend well. And then obviously having Bernie Weston in net, but they find ways to win. They scored with I think it was 6 seconds left in our game to push us to overtime. We were up 1-0. The whole game, essentially, we scored like a minute and a half into the game, and then it was 1-0 until 6 seconds left. They just find ways to score, and if they can take that against some of these 3 teams that they're playing against, they'll be very successful. 7-1-2 in their last 10. They have a goal differential of 14. They don't score a lot, but they like to keep those games close. They play you hard. They play you tough. They're low scoring games. Their PK is 84.9% and their power play is 15.97. They've been to overtime or a shootout. 7 times this year, and they've walked away with 6 wins. They're 6-4 in extra time this year, combined overtime and shootouts. So, And then you got first rounder and Griffin Darby, who, some those Portland Winterhawks fans might know the Darby name, as Hudson Darby got drafted and is now playing with the Portland Winterhawks this year. And now his younger brother Griffin, first round selection of the Portland Winterhawks as well. Same with Cade Rudick, Portland Winterhawks draft pick last year in the 4th round. So I think Swift Current, they know what it takes. A lot of these players have returned, a year older, a year more experience playing again at this level, and then obviously that experience playing in this tournament. So I think it's going to be a different finish for the Legionnaires this year. And I'm obviously all 3 of our teams from Saskatchewan I'm looking forward to seeing in this tournament.
Yeah, I hope so too. They've earned it this season. I know, laughing, talking to some people, it's like, I just don't understand how this team is, where they're at in the standings. Like, I just didn't have them penciled to be this high. They just keep finding ways to win. They don't seem like they should be that strong to some people, right? But they find, like you said, they find ways to win, which is what you need in this tournament. And, transitioning into the Yale Lions, I'm looking at their goaltending right now, and that could be a big factor in this pool, as they got Nathan Cam. He's a 1.89 goals against average, a 932 save percentage. And then Spencer Hunnam, he's got a 926 save percentage with 253 goals against average there. So goaltenders that have seen a decent amount of rubber and, held their own. And you combine that with, their top 5 scorers all are drafted in the WHL, as well as Levi Benson, also into the Chicago Steel, the USHL, who another guy that's going to be probably one of your smaller guys in the tournament. But if you recognize that last name, Zach Benson, a top 10 pick in this past NHL draft with the Buffalo Sabres. Levi also has the talent. It just needs to – some would like him to see a little more height on him, because I think he was last listed at like 5'3", 5'4". It might not be up to 5'5" now, but definitely a smaller player. But you get him in space, quick hands, he can move the puck. He knows where to be. He knows how to put him in the right position to not get hurt. He's not going to go end to end and out-muscle guys, but he's just smart and knows where to be. Yeah,
and like I said, I think this pool is the hardest to try to pick out a winner on paper. This is going to come down to the wire. I think this is going to be a very competitive pool, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. And just one last note: Yale Lions first in the CSSHL on the power play. So I know there's a few teams in this tournament that we've covered and haven't covered yet that like to take penalties. Don't take them against these guys, because they will make you pay. But
yeah, and we're half done, Jared, and it's been an hour, so
yeah, the hour show might have been a little too optimistic.
Well, now we're into the back half and Pool 5.
Yes, Pool 5 here. JD, do you want to just take this to start? I'll get our ticker down at the bottom updated here, and we'll transition into Pool 5.
So Pool 5 consists of the Airdrie CFR Bisons, just north of Calgary. For those that might not know, Bishop Kearney Selects, which I believe is out of Pennsylvania or upstate New York. I can't remember exactly. Shawinigan Lake School is on Vancouver Island. It's a private boarding school, I believe, or prep school. And then the Warburton Wildcats out of the Saskatchewan Male U18 AAA Hockey League, a team that we know quite well. Just not even more of watching them, but helping. Our company has assisted. They hosted the Western Regionals. We were there last year, and then we helped them. We went to Ochapway First Nation and attempted to live stream a hockey game. That's a whole other story for another time. But this again, Bishop Kearney's. I believe that they for Airdrie, Bishop Kearney, and Shawinigan all in the tournament last year. Warman's. I want to say it might be their first appearance in franchise history, because they are a newer team in the league. If not, it's their first appearance probably since COVID, I'm going to say. So
can't remember. I thought they were in it. Might have been not last year, but the year before, or I guess before COVID potentially. But nonetheless, Airdrie CFR Bisons 10-9-1-1 on the year, 9th in the league. Power play operating at 15%, PK at 79.2%. Couple drafted guys there in Kalen Jodery, third rounder from Wenatchee. You got Tyler Decos, 7th rounder of Saskatoon, and Cruz Chase, 7th rounder in Regina. I know he was a guy that in the pre-draft process, talking to a few scouts, that a lot of guys liked. Kind of felt like he could be a sleeper in net in the draft, but he fell to the 7th round to Regina. But, this is another situation where I kind of talk about the save percentage. Yeah, he's got a 3.54 goals against average, but he's a 903 save percentage. So he's seeing at least, about 30 to 40 shots a game. So he's holding his own in there. A team that's, I believe, part of the automatic bid, given being in the Calgary area. I could be wrong on that one. They're hoping to, make some upsets, I would say, initially on here with Bishop Kearney, one of the top U.S. ranked teams coming into this tournament at 8th in the U.S., first in New York, plus 106 goals against differential. And they've actually played a few teams from the U.S. that are going to be in this tournament. The Chicago Mission there, 1-0 against this year, and then 1-1 against the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite, another team that we will talk about later on. They have Michael Sandruk, Cornell University commit, Mitch, I guess Neidl, I would guess is the last name there, Dartmouth College, and then they also have their goaltender, Samuel Doyen Cattle Quiz. I apologize if I'm butchering that last name. He's a 7th rounder of Muskegon in the USHL, as well as a 14th round pick at St. John's Sea Dogs. So it looked like St. John's took a flyer on him late in the draft last year, but he's been having a rock solid year for the Bishop Kearney Selects. He's got a 1.69 goals against average and a 923 save percentage, 3 shutouts on the year in 13 games. He's 8-4-1. Meanwhile, Tyler Flagg-Ned has been 9-1-1 with them, with 200 goals against average and a 902 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. So this team obviously good defensively, can score, as Michael Sandruk, like I alluded to, the Cornell University commit, 43 points. They have, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9 guys roughly with 30 points or more in 30 games. Definitely can score, obviously 8th in the U.S. I'm intrigued to see how this team slots into this division. We talk so much about Shattuck St. Mary's. Bishop Kearney obviously going to be another team from the U.S., the target on their back, given the stats that we've kind of gone over, and their standings, or sorry, their rankings, my hockey rankings in the U.S.
I'm looking. I just on Cruz Chase from the Airdrie Bisons. He looking at his shots against that he's faced this year. He faces roughly 36 shots a game. So yeah, he sees a lot of pucks night in and night out. So, and then to Bishop Kearney's, I believe that they might play in that same prep independent league that Shattuck St. Mary's is a part of as well. I think that they play in that same league, but I could be wrong, Jared. But over to Shawinigan Lake now, which I mentioned, Vancouver Island, a boarding school, very good at hockey. They play a part of the Canadian School Sport Hockey League, and they're doing pretty good this year. 14-3-1-1. They are sitting 4th in the league, last 10, 7-2, 1-0. PK is 20%, or PP, power play, is 20%, and then their PK is 83%. Goal differential of 13. They have some guys that can put the puck in the back of the net. You know, they're two of their leading scorers, Joshua Polak and Eli McCamey. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but both with 12 goals on the year. Goaltending has been very important. I would say that it seems like Mateus, I can't pronounce Mathis Perron. He's faced 354 shots this year, has a save percentage of .904, has a goals against average at 3.43. But he seems like he's been in the games when they've faced a lot of shots. I'll just leave it at that, or more shots. But Emmett Neich, 6-0 with a 2.83 goals against average and a .919 save percentage. So Joshua Polak, a 9th round selection, the Seattle Thunderbirds. So they're looking to obviously rebuild after that championship that they picked up last year in the Western Hockey League. Brendan Van Owen, a 9th round pick of Brandon, and he has also been an appearance in the BCHL with Cowichan Valley Capitals. And Ethan Armstrong, who is sitting 6th in team scoring with 15 points, a 6th rounder of the Barrie Colts. So as I mentioned, this is a prep school. They're a private boarding school. They're not part of the BCEHL. They are part of the CSSHL. I want to say that they're fairly new. I've been kind of hearing about them more and more as of late. I'm not sure if, new maybe in the last 5 years, but I think they're a newer prep school. Maybe I'm not sure.
I want to say so too, and I want to say they've been gaining traction as of late, and as has the entire Canadian Sports School Hockey League. I feel like it's always been a very popular league, but I feel like you said, in the last 5 years as a whole has really gained in popularity compared to maybe a little longer back. But I think they are a newer school.
Yeah,
here to say.
And then they're going to be matched up against the Warman Wildcats, who is. Here's what I found. Who at the time of the selection they played fewer games than I want to say anybody else. Maybe the Saskatoon Blazers were up there too. But I think at the point of their selection, they were 8-2, and they had a winning percentage of .800, I want to say. Which makes sense, of course. And then because the selection committee, from what I've been told, takes you based on winning percentage and not your overall record or placement in the league. So Warman, I think, was sitting 4th or 5th, but they had the best winning percentage at the time, and so they were granted a spot in this tournament. 13-6 and 2. They're sitting 6th right now. Their last 10, 5-3-2. We just played them last weekend, and we gave up the lead, or we let them back into the hockey game, and then they won in overtime, and then we were able to beat them 5-2 last Saturday. But they're a team. They're another hardworking team. Courage Bear, work ethic is very important to him as well, and your attitude on the ice and off the ice too. A guy, Liam Bursaw, deserving to be their team's leading scorer at 22 points. The guy he's very, very, he's a hard worker. He's skilled. He has a nice shot. And then obviously their, rookie Beckett Hamilton, a first rounder of Red Deer last year. He's also one to watch. That Red Deer is going to be coming up to this tournament to watch him, talk with him, and just, make sure everything's all good with him. So goaltending, obviously Corbin Schnurr is their guy. Riley Deck is their backup, their 17-year-old. And Corbin Schnurr is going to have to be very good. This is a big moment for him, unlike, like Bernie Weston, who was at this tournament last year, and Jacob Morris as well, from Swift Current, know what it takes as a goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
in this tournament, and this is going to be the first appearance for both, Brady Holbolt from Prince Albert and Corbin Schnurr from Warman. So, Riley Deck's going to get into a game, maybe two, depending on how things go. But this is going to be an eye-opening experience for them. But Corbin Schnurr, 5-2, 0-2. No shutouts this year, and a 2.35 goals against average and a 9.18 save percentage. So, Bursaw is a Prince Albert Raiders draft pick, and Larange Wolves, Larange Ice Wolves draft pick. So this is going to be another good division. Obviously, you have two U18 AAA teams, and then you got two private prep schools.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, there's going to be a feeling out process, but I'm looking forward to, obviously, we're from Saskatchewan. We want to cheer on our Saskatchewan teams, of course. Warman Wildcats are going to be tough, though, in this pool. Just on paper, as again,
Mm-hmm.
Warman, they're hardworking, they're physical, and that might be a factor against some of these teams that maybe more skill comes before physicality. Not sure, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and just nothing to allude to on Warman. Hopefully, Corbin Schnurr is fully healthy now. I know he's been battling some injuries to start the year, which is good for the backup situation there, as Riley Deck's been able to see a lot more action than I bet he probably would have this far into the season. But Schnurr was, him and Luke Brunin were kind of a 1A and 1B last year for the Warman Wildcats. And into their Western Regionals host appearance, that they came one goal away from heading to the national championship. But he tweaked something, I think, in the Nipawin camp in the SJHL, and hasn't been fully right. So hopefully he's worked through that. He can use a few days here before Christmas to kind of get healthy, get rested, and this could be a situation where maybe Riley Deck ends up seeing two of the three, but hopefully Schnurr's been, good to go, because he is a solid goaltender for them, and this is a hardworking team, like we said. So, I'm interested to see how they play out in this division, and best of luck to our Saskatchewan team.
Yes. Good luck to Warman, PA, and Swift Current. That will be the last you'll be hearing of those three teams, as we have now covered them. Going to pool number 6, Jarrett. That consists of the Okotoks Beaumark Oilers, NAX, which there's a lot to talk about with them.
Yeah.
St. Louis AAA Blues, and then the Valley West Giants. Out of the BC Elite Hockey League, Jared, do you want to start with NAX, or do you want me to go through Okotoks?
Well, let's start with NAX. Probably the early favorites in this division, just on paper. And we said we weren't going to talk about PA, but we are going to talk about the PA Raiders, as you could almost say this team is affiliated with the PA Raiders based on some of the draft picks they have on this team. But obviously, starting off, Daxon Rudolph, a defenseman, leads this team in points, 37 points, 19 games. 15 goals, 22 assists. He was the first overall pick in the 2023 WHL draft. And PA also had the PA Raiders, I should clarify for those who aren't as familiar. The PA Raiders of the WHL had the second overall pick in that draft as well. And that is also the second highest scoring player on the NAX in Riley Boychuk, a forward. 9 goals, 24 assists, 33 points in 17 games. Jordan Duguay, second rounder, 39th overall to Portland. They have Luke Powell, who's a fourth rounder of the Edmonton Oil Kings. Breck Liskey, 10th overall to the Everett Silver Tips. Finn Kelly, sixth rounder to Spokane. Presley Kerner was a 2022 third rounder to Edmonton. Jack Toogood, another awesome name in this in this tournament. He's a 12th rounder for the Edmonton Oil Kings. Rylan Grower, second rounder, 32nd overall in this past draft to the Prince Albert Raiders, and a second rounder of the Dauphin Kings in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Sawyer Dingman, a second rounder of the 2023 draft to the Swift Current Broncos. Reese Nealon, 8th rounder to the Prince George Cougars, also has made an appearance with the Grand Prairie Storm of the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Hubert Clark was a first rounder of the Wayway-Sakapa Wolverines in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, as well as 11th rounder of shocking Prince Albert in the WHL. And then Jaeger Goleka, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
10th rounder of the Edmonton Oil Kings. And then in net, who I believe is a very strong tandem in this tournament, and Sam Saskew, who was a 9th rounder to the Spokane Chiefs, and Jordan Switzer, a 6th rounder of the Medicine Hat Tigers. And they had Lucas Kaplan of the Everett Silvertips to start the year, who had 5 goals and 6 points, and I want to say 7 games with the squad. But he had 8 games, as JD mentioned. He has been moved up to the Silvertips for the rest of the season, so we'll be missing him, but they got lots of guys to step up for him, as they have a ton of WHL draft picks on this team.
Yeah, obviously Daxton Rudolph, Riley Boychuk are the, they are the guys. They were drafted 1-2 in this summer's WHL draft, and but you look at all the other caliber of players that they have that are all WHL draft picks. It's astonishing, man. Looking at all these guys and seeing the amount of draft picks that they have. And yeah, I think you're right. I think that they are, an early favorite maybe to win this pool and make it on to the quarterfinals. But they're 16-3-1. They lead the CSSHL. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. They have a power play of 27.9% and a PK of 85.6. So their special teams is unreal as well. And they have a goal differential of 67. So that they can put the puck in the back of the net. And they're going to be going up against the Okotoks Beaumark Oilers, who are sitting about 500 right now with a 9-9-2-1 record, 4-4-1-1 in their last 10, and a goal differential of +1. Power play of only 19.4% and a PK of 87.5. So their PK has to be strong in this hockey game or in this tournament. But and their goaltenders as well. Carter Esler is probably their guy that's faced the most amount of shots. Has faced 515 shots in 15 games. He has a save percentage of .917 this season. Goals against average of 3.1, but you look at the save percentage he's faced 515 shots in 15 games that he's played. So Okotoks is in tough against a team, especially like NAX, with the amount of firepower that they have. Which might make it a little difficult for them. But at the same time, anything can happen in this tournament, man. It's kind of like the World Juniors in that sense, or March Madness even. There are upsets that happen, and you can't take your foot off the gas, because these teams will make you pay for doing that.
Yeah, NAX first in the CSSHL, 9-0-1 in the last 10. So, on top of all this talent, obviously it's translated into success this season. And they're going to be a tough one to beat. Coming out of the U.S., though, the St. Louis AAA Blues, a little tougher to pull up information on them. I tried going through a bunch of sites, elite prospects, etc. It was a little hard to find information on the roster, but they're ranked number 1 in Missouri, 20th in the U.S., and 13th in U.S. Tier 1 Elite Hockey League. 8-1-1 in the last 10, though, plus 30 goals against their goals differential. Pardon me. The only other data that I could really pull on him was was it Chuck there on our post yesterday. Yeah, Chuck had said they're just they're a really well-coached team. Where was it here? Well-coached team, talented as well. So, potentially kind of like the Prince Albert of the U.S. teams coming up by the sounds of it, just well-coached. They're going to work hard, and, a bit of a wild card in this one.
Yeah, that that Chuck, do you want to jump on the show, buddy, and give us a lowdown on these American teams, buddy? You're helping us out here, so we want to pay you back by having you jump on the show. So if you're watching this or we'll watch it later, DM us and you can jump on our show at some other time and break down the how the United States Tier 1 U18U AAA hockey program in the States works. Because I think I have a grasp of it, but I think that there's a lot more to uncover that we don't even know. So, but Chuck, thank you for all that insight. That's really helped us out here on the show today. Valley West Giants, another BC Elite Hockey League team coming over to Calgary to play in this tournament. Have a decent record, 11-7-1-1. They're fifth out of 9 teams in that league. Goal differential of 11. Jordan Wales is their leading scorer, 5 goals, 20 assists for 25 points, and then Landon Jasmine, 21 points, and Avery Lowe as well with 21 points. Colton White, I think they're out of their top 6 forwards, the lone guy to be drafted, 7th rounder out of Edmonton.
Yeah, leads their team in goals with 13 goals in 19 games. So I imagine teams are making note of that and to shut this team down. But this is probably the league that I struggle with the most in breaking down. We can pull up the stats. It's probably, besides the U.S. teams, my least. The only time I've really seen the BC Elite Hockey League is in the Pacific Regionals when they take on Alberta. So I don't have a lot of knowledge in that. Like we talked about at the start of the episode, they lose a lot of kids to the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. So without going back and doing a lot of information, I would imagine this league is an older league of kids trying to, obviously still have high caliber playing, but trying to get one last audition before they move on to the BC hockey, the BCHL, or even late WHL.
Yeah, and it's tough. Yeah. There's only 9 teams in this league too, and most of them consist of the Lower Mainland, and then there's a couple I think on the island. But they're in the interior. There's 2. There's Okanagan Rockets, and then there's the Thompson Blazers, and then there's the Caribou Cougars, which is a massive region, kind of that northern BC, Prince George, Williams Lake, Quesnel, even down to just north of Kamloops area. That 100-mile house, 150-mile house, all that whole area. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and same as Jared, like I don't know much about them. I was a part of the Thompson Blazers when I first started doing play-by-play in 2019. But that was just for a handful of games. I didn't get a good grasp of what this league was. Still learning about the league, the players, all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to see how they're going to match up against these other teams, and it's a tough pool. Mm-hmm. Playing NAX and the St. Louis AAA Blues, it's going to be a tough road for them. But at the end of the day, anything can happen in this tournament.
Exactly, one game at a time. Yeah, and endurance obviously is huge. Being able to be in good shape and play night in and night out. Yeah, but that ends Pool 6 as we transition into our second last pool. We're about an hour and a half into the episode. Probably going to be about 2 hours before it's all said and done here, but that's all right. We our first preview show of the Circle K Classic, and we're having fun with it. So in Pool 7, the Calgary Royals, probably going to, and hard to say before I see all the teams, but one of the nicest uniforms out of all the teams. I would say it'd be safe to say they got a bit of a rebrand this offseason. Yeah. Sharp looking uniforms there. They match up with the Hill School prep school out in New England area, I believe. Really trouble pulling information on them, as there's also the Hill Academy that I believe they play in the same league, or they play each other. So it was really hard to differentiate between those two at times. But we'll get into that in a bit here. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite and the Vancouver Northeast Chiefs, also of the BCEHL that we just talked about with Valley West. So we'll start here with Hill School. Like I said, it was a little hard to pull information there. They're 24-13-2, fifth in independent prep in the U.S. They are 32nd in U18 and 7-1-2 in their last 10, plus 50 goals differential. They have played the Phoenix Junior Coyotes. They're 1-0 against them. So a bit of an insight there if you're trying to score match. It doesn't always work out that way, but from what I can find, Jack O'Brien was a 9th rounder of the Sherbrooke Phoenix. And stats-wise, they can only find about stats on 6 players. So apologies there. And I don't know how accurate those stats are either, if they apply to league play or showcase play or what, but apologies there. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite. Bit of deceiving. I know JD and I were talking about this before the episode. They're 13-17 on the year, losing record. They're 28th in US 18 or USA 18U, pardon me, and 18U Tier 1. They're 18th. Last 10, I do not have that for you, but they have played a bunch of teams in this tournament from the States. They're 2-1 versus Victory Honda, 1-1 versus Bishop Kearney, 1-1 versus South Kent, and 0-1 against Shattuck St. Mary's. So despite having that losing record, given that record is accurate based on the data we're able to pull, they're still playing these teams that are of high caliber well, getting wins against them. So record, not always a tell-all.
No, and you don't know like you said, we don't know if this record is reflective of all these different showcases or tournaments that they've gone to either. This seems like just league play within probably the 4 leagues that they probably play in, or 3 leagues, or I know they're an elite team, so they're part of that elite Tier 1 program in the States. But yeah, looking at these records against some of these tougher teams, and these prep schools, they seems like they play them pretty well. Obviously the loss to St. Mary's, they probably want to forget about that. It was 13-0. So we'll just, that's out the window. Shattuck St. Mary's, they're a tough team to play against, but against Victory Honda, who has skill, they're 2-1 against them. They're 1-1 against Bishop Kearney, and then 1-1 versus South Kent. Against these prep or academy schools that they play against, that's that you got to tip your cap at that. That is something to look at and want to dive deeper into those stats compared to what their record is, because they're going to be playing against some tough teams in their pool. Calgary Royals, another tough team. Pick Vancouver Northeast Giants. Haven't seen them. The record, they're 15-3. They're going to be a tough team, and then obviously the Hill School, another tough team probably as well. So if they can, even if they can pull 2 out of 3 wins. And that's that. It seems like my point is that they seem like they play these more competitive and tougher teams well, maybe better than maybe some of those lower teams that they maybe had some problems with, or maybe they had a bunch of injury trouble. Maybe maybe 5 guys got sick before a tournament or something, or before some league games, or their top goaltender got out with an injury and he just starting to kind of find his way back. We don't know this. Yeah. So there's so many variables, and we can't just go off of stats or record, as Jared alluded to, because we don't know the full story.
No, exactly. And a lot of these players have been drafted into the UPHL or at the combines, I believe. So they're junior bound after this, so obviously the talent is there. Net Ryan Harris, he's played 10 games, 320 save percentage, but he's got a 915 save percentage, pardon me. And then Charlie Mistoretta, 353 goals against average and 891 save percentage. They see a lot of rubber, which means they, it could be, based on the talent that they play. Yeah. Or it could be a team that just can at times get hemmed and gives up a lot of shots. And when they get it all together, those are when you're seeing the wins and the successful play against some of these other teams. But all speculation. We're kind of going off stats, which probably isn't the best way to preview teams. But at this level of hockey, it's not as black and white. It's not as easy to just go and catch a game here on a Thursday or a Friday, right? So doing our best for you folks. And again, if anyone from these U.S. teams has more of a grasp on things, feel free to reach out to us so we can get you on the show and, enlighten the audience a little better on these teams. Would be much appreciated. But Vancouver Northeast Chiefs will move on to next in this pool. They are of the BC EHL, 15-3-0-2. They're second in that league, plus 54 differential. Lucas McDonald leads the team in points, 32 points in 20 games. He's on a point or goal per game basis in this league, 20 goals in 20 games. He is going to be a kid to watch at this tournament. Jonah Power Smith, 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points in 20 games. Tyson Moss, D-man, 6 goals, 16 assists, 22 points. He's a 10th rounder of Kamloops. I would imagine has the opportunity to get onto that squad this season, if not next year, based on his play and the state of the Kamloops Blazers kind of going through a post-Memorial Cup hosting rebuild. Lots of opportunity there, a lot of time to showcase here his value. But looking to the net, Nathan Clayton, 9-1, 0-2 on the year, 5 shutouts, 2.08 goals against average, and a .932 save percentage. He is definitely a goaltender to watch here in this pool and could be a huge factor on to who comes out of this division. Numbers like that, definitely one to watch there. I believe he's undrafted, so no better time to showcase your talent than this tournament.
Yeah, that's a goaltender to watch out for. 5 shutouts. I would love to know what the record is in that league, because 5 shutouts, and like
in 12 games.
Yeah, it's like Joshua.
Every second game he's getting a shutout.
Yeah, like that's like Joshua Ravensburg in the WHL as a rookie. He's already got 6. Like this is just like I know goalies, they have years where everything just goes right for him, and this must be the year for Nathan Clayton, because he's having a great season, and he's hoping to put that on display for scouts that will be in the rinks watching him play. So the potential is, if he has a good tournament, he could be signing somewhere in the spring. We don't, best of luck to them. They've had a really good season. And if I remember correctly, Jared, 2 years ago, they hosted the Pacific Regional tournament.
They won it a couple of years ago, I believe.
They won it. Okay. I couldn't remember if they won it, and I know that they hosted it. I just couldn't remember if they won it. But at the end of the day, you know what? This is a successful program, as we've seen in the last couple of years, and it's continued here with a good start to their year, 15-3-0-2, just behind I believe, the Caribou Cougars, who did not get invited from that league. But again, they make these selections in the middle of November, so Caribou might have been on a little bit of a slide or something.
It's hard to say. They could have passed on the tournament too. I believe the Saskatoon Blazers would have been eligible. I think they passed on it this year. They had a long season last year with their playoff run to the national championship. I kind of think they just wanted to, rest up and focus on the second half of the season there. But lastly, but not least in this division, the Calgary Royals, who I had mentioned at the beginning there, some of the nicer uniforms that we'll see in this tournament, the blue and yellow. This team, just initial look at it, it screams depth. They have 8 guys, all kind of in that 6, 5, 7, 6, 8, 7, 5, 3 goals. So they get goals all throughout their lineup, all throughout their top 6, probably into their third line as well. So that is going to be a factor to watch in this tournament for me. They've been getting good goaltending out of Connor Johnson and Connor White. Connor White looks like 9-0-1 on the year, where Connor Johnson 6-6. I'm guessing there's a winner and a loss missing in there, so I'm not sure where those went. But I think this is an older team. A lot of these players have gotten a bit of taste of the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Aiden Kachuk's had a few games with the Calgary Canucks. Pantani Mutombo of the Okotoks Oilers. And there's a few others that I didn't have listed on our notes here that have seen some Alberta Junior Hockey League action. But like I said, 15-5, 0-1, and 87% PK, which is going to be a big factor in this tournament. If they can get the power play going, which has only been firing at a 14.5% rate, I think that'll go a long ways. But, the depth of this team could be a sneaky factor into them coming out of this pool.
Yeah, I look forward to watching the Royals play. Like they were, I don't think that they had the tournament that they wanted last year. But coming in, I think that they might be stronger than they were in last year's tournament. And as Jared alluded to, the depth that kind of screams at you off the page. They have 8 guys over 10 points, so they have production from a lot of their different players. And obviously Aiden Kachuk is the guy to watch on that team. It seems like, but at the same time, they have a lot of other guys that do contribute offensively, and then they got some good goaltending too, which is crucial in this tournament. So it's going to be looking forward to watching them play and to see who comes out of this tournament, because it's up in the air right now. This is a tough pool, because any one of these teams could go 3-0, and maybe you don't know.
Well, and one thing to note is I think this is the only pool that has 2 U.S. teams in it. The other team comes out of the BC League. And for the Royals to be able to be at home in their own beds every night could be a huge factor in just comfort and success too, right? Being on the road in a new place, a new country for 2 teams, you wouldn't think it should be that big of a factor, but sometimes just that little extra comfort can help overcome adversity.
Yeah. But let's move on, Jared, to Pool 8, our last and final pool of the tournament. So, excuse me.
2 U.S. teams in this one, as I just finished saying.
Yeah.
They're one of the only U.S. divisions, or one of the only pools with 2 U.S. teams, pardon me. So the second pool, I guess, that has 2 American teams in it.
But this pool, number 8, Edmonton Oilers Blue Saha, who were the champions or have been the champions in back-to-back years at this tournament. And then the South Kent School out of, I want to say, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I think that they're out of. And then the Chicago Mission, obviously a team that's made multiple appearances to this tournament. And so we'll start with the Edmonton Junior Blue. They are 6-0-2 in the Alberta Hockey League. They're 8th out of, so they're sitting in the middle of the pack, last playoff spot as of yesterday when these stats were created or pulled, I should say. Their power play needs a little bit of work, probably not where they want it to be at 14.5%, but they do have a good penalty kill at 87.1%. They've kind of gone on a little bit of a slide, 4-4-2-0. They could be 15-2 if you take away those 4 losses that they've had in their last 10 games. So, but they kind of comparing the 2 Edmonton teams. I think that this one might be a little bit more in the depth scoring realm with Landon McFadden, obviously a 4th rounder from Moose Jaw. You got Nolan Stewart, a 5th rounder out of Victoria, and then their goaltender Joshua Benini, who attended the Warriors camp and actually was with them for the first part of the season. But then they got released and sent back to Edmonton. Dimitri Fortin winning that backup battle with Joshua Benini. But he's 8-5-2, seeing a lot of shots in a per game, 526 shots in 15 games. And, has a good save percentage in 9.914 and goals against average just under 3. So I believe he was in the tournament last year, because I think both Edmonton teams were, or it might have just been one of them. I can't remember. But at the end of the day, goaltending's huge. So he needs to have a good tournament here with the Edmonton Junior Oilers blue. And we'll see where they go. It's a tough draw for them as well, going up against South Kent, who had a good tournament last year. Chicago Mission, I think they had some equipment problems. A lot of their equipment didn't make the trip from Chicago.
Were they the team that had to borrow equipment for the tournament?
Yeah, for part of the tournament, and then I think their one of their sets of jerseys didn't make it either, and it was unlucky travel for them last year. Hopefully this year's a different story. But as we kind of go through here, let's go to Saha, the defending champs of this tournament.
Two-time defending champs.
Yes,
they're looking for they're only the second team to ever three-peat the tournament, I believe. Yeah. This is one of the newest Canadian Sports School Hockey League teams. Probably not as strong as they have been in past years. They lost a lot of firepower to the Tigers and other teams last year, but they're still doing all right. 9-7, 1-0, 10th out of 20, but they are 7-2-1-0 in their last 10. So a bit of a slow start there for the Saha Academy. They have Braden Ryan McKay, 6th rounder out of Medicine Hat. They got Carter Cunningham, who's a 14th rounder of Muskogee in the USHL. John Ivasheshin, 9th rounder to Lethbridge. Hudson Gaynor is a 4th rounder to Medicine Hat. Colby Gapter is a 2nd rounder US draft pick. And then their Marek Schlenker, an 8th rounder out of Portland. So, their goaltending has been strong this year. The 2.34 goals against average and a .930 save percentage. So, looks like he's been performing well for them. That's going to be a big part in this pool. And a few guys kind of leaning on to the goal department with Cunningham, McKay, and Eva Sheshin. So what are your thoughts on Saha this year? Their PK's probably been part of the reason why they had a slow start. Special teams as a whole. Their power play has only been firing at a 13.4% rate, while their PK at 80%, which is probably a large factor to why this team came out to a slow start. I'm not saying that is. This is just kind of pulling data from the league, but probably a big contributor in the early season struggles.
Yeah, I would say so. It seems like they're finding their stride right now. 7-2, 1-0, and for those that don't know, if you've won the tournament or you won it in the previous year, you get an automatic invite to the Circle K Classic again. So that's the reason why Saha is in this tournament. And I think if they can boost up that power play percentage or get some confidence on the power play in this tournament, I think that might help them later on or in the latter half of the season. At 13.4%, that's not really something that that's not where you want to be, especially heading into this caliber of tournament against this caliber of teams that you're facing against. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that they're the same type of team that they were last year, but I imagine that that they have different elements maybe than they had last year that could make them successful this year. It's hard to say until you watch them play what kind of team that they are, but they are starting to kind of find their stride in the league with 7 wins in their last 10 games. So at the end of the day, I think that that has to say something. Obviously, strong goaltending as well from Marek Schlenker, and we'll see what they're all about in this tournament. But they're going to be playing up against a prep school out of Connecticut, South Kent, 21-15-1 record. They've played 37 games, excuse me, already this season. A lot of those could be tournaments or showcases or whatever. And they got league play, but they're sitting the third ranked team in Connecticut and 24th overall, 6-3-1 in their last 10, goal differential of 50. They have played Pittsburgh, who's in this tournament, 1-2 against them this weekend, or against Pittsburgh this year. So, the Penguins getting the edge on them. But kind of looking at their stats. Their leading scorer is William Hughes, a Canadian kid that's playing down in the States for a private boarding school, I think is what it is. It's an
Mm-hmm.
academy or whatever you want to call it. And he's a fifth rounder of Guelph, and then James Marshall out of Boston. Oh, excuse me, I was reading the wrong sheet. And James Marshall, one of their other leading scorers, 40 points on the year, Halifax Mooseheads draft pick in
Mm-hmm.
2022, and then another Mooseheads draft pick, James Chase out of Willingston, Virginia. No, yes, Vermont. Excuse me, sorry, VA is Virginia.
Yeah, but go on.
But
Sorry.
oh no, and then they got a Russian who also has put up 40 points this year. So it's honestly, I watched them a little bit last year, and they were I think skill might have more of their game than physicality, which I would imagine is probably on par for a lot of these other academies. But it'll be interesting again to watch them. I think they're called the Cardinals, South Kent Cardinals or something, I think.
Yeah, and they're an older team, right? Like you look at their leading, and I only pulled up about 5 of their leading guys there, but they're all 06 born. Both goalies are 06 born, so they're all in their last season of U18 hockey. And one thing that kind of surprised me, just kind of looking at the stats, is they're 21, 15, and 1. You look at how many guys are over a point per game or close to it, and then you look at their goaltending, who both goalies, one's a 2.3 goals against average and a 9.11 save percentage, and Chase Hennessy, and then Connor Broderick, 14 games played, 1.78 goals against average and a 9.47 save percentage. It is just a little weird to see that you have that much offense, that good of goaltending, only translate into 21 wins.
Yeah.
So without going back and looking at every gameplay, it's a little intriguing to see how those two numbers correlate, right? But they're going to be a team that's hungry. They're older, and could be a team to watch in this pool. Lastly, the Chicago Mission wasn't able to pull any player data on that. They have a 6-2 loss and a 6-1 loss to Shattuck St. Mary's, and a 3-1 win over Victory Honda. Ranked second in Illinois, 26 in USA U18 Tier 1. And all of 18U, they are ranked 37th. Kind of sliding into this tournament as of right now, 3-7 in their last 10. So they started off the year 16-3-1. So the talent's there, the performance is there. They can refine their game in this tournament. They'll be one that could come out of this pool, but if they keep playing like they have in the last 10, nothing said to say that they aren't playing some of the strongest teams in their last 10 either. But coming in like some of these other teams are sliding in, it's not where you want to be when you're trying to play one of the better tournaments in North America.
Yeah, it's as we've talked about before, it's hard to look at these stats and really say, like, they might have played a lot more competitive teams than they might have lost 2-1 games, 3-2 games. Like we don't know. But they do have some of the most intriguing jerseys in the league, with like neon green jerseys. So that's always a crowd pleaser. Seen some nice jerseys. Obviously, the Calgary Royals from Pool 7 having some pretty badass jerseys as well. But yeah, and it will be interesting to see, going up against South Kent and Saha and the Edmonton Blue. It'll be to see where they fall. And as I mentioned before, they had struggles last year, not even just with their equipment. Like it's just tough to. It's tough to play hockey when half your equipment doesn't show up, or some of your jerseys aren't there, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, They're invited to this team or this tournament. Obviously, the tournament committee sees something in them that makes them want to have them. Playing in this very competitive tournament in a few weeks or a couple weeks now.
Yeah, it's fastly approaching it. The first game is in 11 days, the 27th. Is that when it starts, right?
11 days.
11 days till the tournament kicks off. But, JD, I think that's about all we can say for now. Anyone that tuned in and watched the entire episode, we are greatly appreciated for it. And we hope we were of use. A lot of the stuff that we talked about, a lot of people could have just kind of Googled up and, did extensive research on, but again, that takes time. JD and I both know that. It took a lot of time. We kind of, split up the pools and compiled our information together. But, hopefully we were able to compile it all enough for you guys into one episode to where it was of use to all you people watching, whether you're from the States or Canada, trying to get a bit of a in-look on some of these teams in the tournament. Hopefully I can get time here shortly and we can kind of make a post of when we started talking about each pool to help you properly navigate this episode, because 2 hours is a long time. We understand that, but again, deeply appreciative of you guys taking the time here to catch the episode. So JD, any last words from you?
No, I think we've covered everything in just shy of 2 hours, so I don't think they want to hear our voices anymore.
Alrighty, well, I am Jared Down, JD Houghton to the left of me. We are Double J Sports, bringing lots of AAA content as well as WHL content about once a month now. So tune into our Prairie AAA show. It's our last episode before Christmas. I'm not sure when we'll resume after Christmas, but everyone have a Merry Christmas and looking forward to the Circle K Classic.
Happy holidays, everyone.